and I embrace. So thank you. Thank you. You're very welcome.
I'll let you know what I love your excitement about it.
Hey, you should ask. Can we actually high-fived on the way out? So this is how it was in 2008. This is 2008.
8
years ago.
So look at this artery. You've got clot. You've got there'll eventually be there's a tear. And what they ended up doing, I'm going to go through it really quickly and just going to come to the end. I don't want to bore you with all the details, but
This is what he
not
came
boring.
out. This is what he came out and showed me, and asked the decision: do we go for?
Can we get a film of this for us for later?
yeah, right? Let's do this.
I'm videotaping this, Dave.
Oh, good. Way to go, Ron.
Here, this is 2008. So you see how there's kind of flow here,
Mm-hmm.
but there's no flow kind of at the tip. There's no flow here. And that's the LAD that we're going to go through. Eventually, I'm going to go through it really quickly.
Evelyn Woods.
Speed reading.
Let's see, it's a lot of pictures. There's a wire down it, which I did. They're going to come in and they're going to see these little dots? Those are stents.
Okay.
So they're going to kind of work themselves back. And he's actually going to require stenting kind of from here all the way back. They're going to put one more stent. See those two dots?
Mm-hmm.
Those are dots. Those are markers. In between, it's metal. They get inflated by a balloon, and the stent becomes a scaffolding structure to open the artery up. And then, it's a great result. They kind of salvaged a very complicated artery. Okay?
This
I
is
want
8
to
years
point your
ago.
eyes. I want to point your eyes to the other major artery. Let's see if I can get a good view of it in the circ. Probably have to go all the way at the beginning. Do you see here how there's another major artery coming down here? Let me get a better view of it. Sorry. Let's see. Just go one by one and find a good view of it. No. So here's another interesting thing. Just to let you know, most human beings, these two arteries come off of a stem. Your dad? No. He had to be the tricky one where they kind of have their own origin, which makes this even more challenging. So his anatomy is actually what we would call an anomaly. It's special. It's not normal anatomy. So it's just to kind of throw that out there. So I was really lucky last night, before I scrubbed into his case, I had the know-how. I just said, let me just look at his case from 2008. And amazingly enough, in 2008, the images showed. Sometimes ask him, they won't archive until, they only will show up 4 years ago, 6 years ago. The fact that it came up 8 years ago without having to retrieve it was amazing. I'm telling you. Things
Thank you, Father.
So let's actually just look at this artery. This is the other artery. There's some narrowing in this section over here. We're going to look at it in real time. That narrowing is somewhat progressed, but it's moderate in nature. It's not severe. It's not something we're going to want to go after because of especially his current condition. But there is progression of not only this disease. We'll also talk about progression of the other artery as well. So that's 2008. Let's fast forward to yesterday. So remember yesterday, he comes in, we're getting him, his heart stops, right? We shock him, which he remembers, by the way, sadly.
He did say
He did
that.
remember that. Then, and so he gets shocked, and then all of a sudden, literally seconds later, his heart stops. He has no pulse. We do CPR for 20 minutes.
Nothing.
We've got access. We've got the catheter in, but we can't proceed because we want to make sure he's getting blood to his brain, to his brain. So CPR. After 20 minutes later, we can finally say, okay, let's start to move that catheter to look about what's going on. And so, let's see. Here we are here.
I really want to.
Do you guys remember that artery from before? So now look at it. Right in here, see how hazy, see how black that is? See how hazy and fuzzy it is in there?
Yes.
That's all clot.
That's all clot.
That's all clot. A lot of clot in there. And again, let's see if I can show another view. Here's another view of it. Kind of clot in there, and there might be a blockage in there. Yeah.
I'm just listening.
Oh, no worries. There might be a blockage in there, but it doesn't look well. So the thought is what am I going to do is I need to wire this. And just to let you know, it's tricky to wire because when they put the stents out here, they stuck it out. So I don't know how to explain this. So you've got a flat surface, and it's easy to put a catheter into the hole of the flat surface. But now you've got metal sticking out. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
So is it sticking out a little that way, a little little that way, a little that way, right? So to get onto that catheter and wire is tricky, but again, amazingly enough, catheter goes in and wiring it wasn't too bad. Wires can go through the strut, so think about it. If you've got like a metal scaffolding, it's got holes in it like this, and I'm going into a hole, I can wire and go through and never get into the hole. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we got down, and amazingly enough, look, I mean, our wire is all the way down smoothly.
I've scoped a lot of plumbing jobs, so I know
So
what you're talking about.
what I want to buy is a license plate that says Heart Plumber.
Yeah.
'Cause we call ourselves plumbers. So
Do you?
that's another. So the thought now is again. So I got the wire down. His heart stopped again. He lost his pulse. So we're pounding. We're doing another 10, 15 minutes of CPR, and that's the number one priority. And as you've seen, your dad is probably the ultimate example of how CPR really works. Truly, because if we didn't do the CPR, let's say we tried to fix him without doing the CPR, well, the heart's not pumping. So even if you fix it, it's not working. So the blood's not going to his brain, it's not going to his kidney, it's not going to his liver. So we get the wire down, and you don't see it here, but we have what's called the angiojet. It's literally this big vacuum.
Sucks it out.
It sucks it out. So we got it, and we were able to. That was probably after we had done it, and then we took another shot. I was able to get it right about here. All this metal wasn't allowing it, because it's relatively bulky, it wasn't allowing the vacuum to get all the way down, but it got down through most of the metal. And we did, like I said, one quick pass, and it's literally this machine goes, and it's just sucking, 2, 3. And that's kind of where we were. And then thereafter, Dad's heart, Gerald's heart wasn't cooperating, right? And then another, I think, 20 minutes. I think cumulative, we've always said around 50. I've never calculated, but it's around 50 minutes of CPR. And that's kind of where Dr. Fraser was having the discussion with you guys. How much is enough? What's humane? What were his wishes? And the decision is after, prolonged level of CPR, let's just let him be. When he was on our table, even after all that, we pulled the catheter out, he was pulseless here, he was pulseless in his leg. I would say 30 to 45 seconds after we walked away from him, he regained pulse in his carotid. It was very feeble in his neck, very weak. And so we said, he is not dead. Well, he was, but he came back alive. Again. So what we're going to do is let him go to the ICU and let him heal, right? Let him be. But odds would say, if you were a betting man, odds would say that we know there's a higher power, so we're not going to use that, but just odds would say he's not going to make it, right? And we were being really honest last night. Even after all we did, from our experience, we call this like a battlefield, and we've been to battle many, many times. So from our experience of that, the thought is this was a big deal. Just having your chest pumped for 50 minutes on end. There's people who say they won't even do more than 20 minutes of CPR. They'll just stop. They'll just say it's it. And Kim and I, we were talking about this. There are people who weren't a part of our team. There's like, when a code is called, there's like 20, 30 people. People start to kind of look at you crazy when you're going around 40 to 50 minutes of CPR in an 84-year-old gentleman. But hearing about Dad's life, and he was robust, and he was just walking, we gave him every chance we could. So the thought is let him be, and let's see. There's a higher probability he's not going to do well, but there's a slimmer of hope. Hence, he wakes up.
2 o'clock in the morning.
2 o'clock in the morning. And literally, I didn't sleep a minute since. Ask him actually called her. I was just so moved by it. I was like, wow. So we've got a fighter here, which we kept saying. So the thought is
He's a tough guy.
this morning, he was doing pretty good, but his pressure of his heart was weakening. Meaning he was requiring medications to keep his blood pressure elevated. In essence, his heart was under too much demand after all that he's been through. And we also have to realize, remember we did the echocardiogram, the ultrasound of his heart. We said an ejection fraction, 25 to 30%, was roughly 50% of his overall function, meaning it took a 50% hit. A lot of that also could have been from the CPR, from him not naturally, having the blood move, right? We were doing it unnaturally. So what we call that is sometimes anoxic injury, meaning maybe he wasn't getting the most oxygen. He was getting the best we could provide him at the time, but it's not perfect, right? So who's to say? But we also put him on blood thinners in the lab. We did the suction catheter. And with the CPR, I'm not too shocked to now show you today the thought is now let's put a balloon pump in, support him, but let's take a shot to see where we're at. So today, so that's the balloon. Isn't that cool? That's the balloon. Going
Look
up
at, and
down.
you said a counter heartbeat.
Yes, it counters. So as the heart beats, it collapses, so that it causes a suction effect. So blood comes down the candy cane pipe, our aorta, and gives blood to kidneys, blood to liver, blood to spleen, blood to whoever wants the blood. But then it inflates as the heart is relaxing to actually backflow the arteries of the heart, the same arteries we're talking about that were, So, and amazing, we put it in, function, pressure's all improved.
That's the hot dog shaped thing.
Yep, yep. So
Hot
it's
dog
right,
shape.
it's sitting pretty much from here to here from
Oh,
here.
that long.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
That
it's sitting.
long.
It's above the level of the kidneys. I should be more, it's
You
above
see
the
all
level of the
those
kidneys.
ribs there.
Those are his ribs. Those are his ribs. So
And they're not broken.
hey,
How you did
it's
that.
amazing. So so here we go. So now I'm selectively going from one artery to the next. I initially knew I was going to select the other artery that we weren't worried about last night. And if you look at it, look at the flow. Beautiful. There is a stenosis. Stenosis means as a we're talking plumbing, there's narrowing, right? But if you look at it in a different view, that narrowing isn't too bad.
Wow.
So he's getting really good flow. And there's something called a term TIMI 3 flow. It's an advanced term that all it means is when you inject the artery, how long does it take from the tip of the catheter for it to reach the tip of the distal part of the artery? And then you look at it, it's quick. So this is TIMI 3 flow, which is the best type of flow. So we don't have like sluggish flow. TIMI 1 would be just trickling down. You see what I'm saying? So we were like, okay, good. Okay, we'll take this. We're happy. I wouldn't touch this. There's a stenosis there, 50 to 60%. Some may say 60 to 70. But in this condition, it's not risks, benefits, right? And I remember I told you this area was a progression of what was there in 2008.
Yes.
Kind of 8 years of progression. So now let's talk about the next artery. And I shoot some more shots of it. Looks good. And you will see, there it's lighting up already. I'm not even trying to shoot it. And do you see it's lighting up back in there? So let's do a better shot. But here you go. I can engage it a little better. Here. Look how black it is. Remember how it was hazy? Remember it was hazy, it was white. But this is as black as this is black. There's a stenosis here. So this is probably the tip of the stent. That's probably 50%. Again, if we're in a different world and a stable patient, this is something we might consider evaluating. Not even putting a stent, but evaluating. We've got called flow wires and stuff. But in his current condition, this is stable. We're stable. The clot is gone. That's most importantly. So let me see if there's another shot. I think we do another shot. We do. And look, let me pause it. This is a shot kind of looking over it. And you look. Nice and black, right? Not hazy. So,
Are those the other stents?
so these are the stents right in here. So if I were to take all the contrast out, there's your stents. Do you see that structure in there? There's this like outlining, almost like a skeleton. Do you see that skeleton
totally.
in there?
Yeah.
That's the stents. That's the stents. And as you can only imagine, like I said, what's really tricky about them is they even stick out. Remember I told you there's
Yes.
that hole,
Yes.
and they're sticking out, so it's not a perfect landing spot. So, quite tricky, quite challenging, but like we said, we were getting help. Things went smooth. We're really happy where we are. So now what? That's probably what you're wondering. Now what? Let's keep the balloon pump in him for a couple days. Let's let his heart rest, heal. We're still, again, I've been using this a lot. We're not out of the woods, but at least we now know, when we're talking options A, B, C, he doesn't need bypass surgery. He doesn't need stents in this moment.
Wonderful.
I talked to other cardiologists. We're still even going to present this case tomorrow in our conference. He needs to be back on his baby aspirin. What probably will eventually happen, I hope, my best case scenario would be, he does not require the balloon pump anymore. That comes out. He doesn't require medicines to keep his blood pressure out. To the opposite, hopefully, what we're hoping and praying for is that It gets stronger on its own a little. Then we start to give him medicines for a cardiomyopathy. Remember we said cardio heart, myo muscle, opathy means weak heart muscle.
Okay.
So there's
Weak
medications
heart
for that.
muscle.
And the thought would be we put him on that for months, 2 to 3 months. And the thought is then at 3 months, with him being on medicines, if God willing this all plays out as perfect as possible, we reassess his function of his heart then. If it's greater than 35%, we're like, hallelujah, we'll take it. If it's less than 35%, then we start to consider things like a defibrillator. You guys have heard of a defibrillator? It's like a pacemaker, but with a defibrillator. Because when your function of the heart in 90 days, he actually could be kitted after 40 days because we didn't really put a stent. After 40 days, if his function is still less than 35%, we could consider a defibrillator for him. Okay?
I'm glad that the open heart and the stent thing
Are not required. I've, like I said, Dr. Spiegel agreed. We discussed this, and we were all pleasantly and cautiously optimistic and surprised. Okay?
Well, I want to thank our Father.
All righty.